Okay, Caitlin, shall we kick it off? We'll have
Yeah.
more folks joining us in a bit, I'm sure. So go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Davis, and I am the MCA administrator. Welcome to our advocacy training for Missouri Arts Advocacy Week. We're delighted to have you join us and really excited to get you all prepared for Arts Advocacy Week coming up in February. I'm going to kick it over to our board president, Leslie Forrester, to share some more about MCA.
Thanks, Caitlin. Just a couple housekeeping. If you've just joined us, make sure you're muting your microphone. And if you have questions that come up, send it over into the chat. I'll be keeping track of that as we go along. So advocacy season certainly is upon us. I know many of you are already very engaged in the process, so appreciate the time this morning to talk through what we've got coming up. So Missouri Citizens for the Arts, I'm the board president this year, is a nonpartisan statewide organization to advocate for funding at the state level to support the arts. We are a 501c4 advocacy organization. And so our work is very much member based. Our board is made up of members of the organization as well. And membership is through individuals, organizations, businesses, and corporate sponsorships. So Caitlin is going to talk about membership later on because we would love for your participation in that if you are able to. The organization is governed by a board of directors made up of folks from all over the state. I'm in Springfield, Missouri. I manage the Springfield Regional Arts Council, and colleagues all over the state join me on the board, both as general board members as well as regional vice presidents to help make sure the word is being spread throughout the entire state. We do have a wonderful legislative consultant, Kyna Iman. You're going to hear from her in just a few minutes. And she's really our eyes and ears and boots on the ground in Jeff City, keeping track of what's going on from day to day. And boy, does she have a big job. So grateful to have her leading that charge and keeping us very, very well informed. And here's the list of our board. This is our our executive committee. And as you can see, there's representation from across the state, from metro areas like Kansas City and St. Louis, but also in Joplin, in Branson and Columbia. We've got folks in Mexico, Gideon, and even in St. Joseph. So it is a broad representation. This is the list of the rest of our full board. A membership from all over the state, and grateful for every single one of them who are part of the team to help develop and support Caitlin for this particular week, but also to ensure that we're continuing to engage at the state level throughout the year. And then my last piece here is to, of course, thank our sponsors. These are the folks who are helping to contribute to the Arts Advocacy Week this week. So we're very grateful to Catalyst Consulting, the Springfield Regional Arts Council, the Missouri Association of Community Arts Agencies, the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education, Marie Hunter, Evie Craig, Allison Schieber, Lindsay Rude Clifford, and Jay Hahn for their financial contributions to make Advocacy Week work and work so smoothly. So next, I'd like to officially introduce our legislative consultant, Kyna Iman. Will take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I am still here at the Capitol. I stole away to one of the state reps' offices, so I actually have the official state seal behind me, bringing in the hottest, latest news from off the chamber floors this morning. So thanks for joining. So a lot of people ask, why should I get involved? We've got Kyna there. Why should I bother with this? Well, let me just tell you, everything that you work for and all your funding could be lost by just one vote. So there's 197 legislators. We're trying to create a friendly environment around funding for the arts and protect the arts industry in our state. And going back to that 197 legislators, there's 163 state reps. And hopefully you have or will know after this advocacy training how to find out who your state rep is that represents your area. There's 34 members of the Senate And as you can see on the screen there, how much it takes to pass a bill in both chambers. However, these days, the Senate can kill a bill with just one member. And so it really does take working together with everyone, both Republicans and Democrats, to gain support for our legislation. And that's what I really enjoy lobbying on behalf of the arts, because it's a bipartisan effort. We have both Republicans and senators, representatives, and Democrats, representatives and senators who support the arts in the state. And yesterday, the governor gave his State of the State address, and I'm going to tell you how we can get more engaged in what he recommended. So keep rolling, Caitlin. There you go. So the advocacy process, or some of us call it a lobbying process, is really not a bad word, although I think us lobbyists get some bad raps from time to time. But it is your First Amendment right. And if the legislators aren't hearing from you, guess what? They're hearing from some other special interest that wants funding just like you. So we rely on our advocates to contact our legislators and stand up and either advocate for or against issues that affect you and your daily jobs. And we get a lot of questions on if you're a 501c3, is it illegal to lobby? It is not, as long as you're not spending more than a substantial amount of your time advocating. But if you're answering MCA's action alerts, just contacting your legislator, like I said, that's your First Amendment right. That is not actually anything that would tip the scales on the 501c3 legal status. So how do you effectively advocate? Well, it's just like a sales job. So the more you know about the person you're trying to sell something to, the better your chances are of being successful. So you always want to be informed, and hopefully Missouri Citizens for the Arts will give you, or we will give you, all of the information you need to make that contact. Be polite. Let me just tell you, the fastest way to get a rejection in this building is to come across too aggressive or too just pompous, like you owe me this. That never is gonna win you friends. We'll just only make enemies. So be polite, and we will give you the number of the bill numbers. Just for example, House Bill 12 is the budget bill for the Missouri Arts Council funding. So you might want to take note of that and just make it personal. They want to hear stories on how you're spending those funds. It's a lot easier for them when they see a budget number on the budget bill to say, oh, this is something that Caitlin contacted me about, and she told me this is funding for X amount of kids in my district. That's how you make it personal and just talk about how these issues affect you. And then a lot of people will come to the Capitol or meet with their legislator and ask them to support the arts or support the arts funding, but they never say, can I get your commitment today on, will you support funding for the arts? And so if they don't have an answer for you right then, make sure you follow up and remain in contact, or say, can I get you more information that will help you make your decision? So that's how we effectively advocate. Now we're going to get into some weeds, and I know this is small print, so it's kind of hard to read from afar, but the main key to this is the Missouri Arts Council funding is the main thing Missouri Citizens for the Arts advocates for. Last year, we were very successful in obtaining a $3.1 million increase for MAC, which brings us up to close to $10 million in funding. This is over double what we were getting 2 years ago in funding. So hopefully for those of you that have been getting grants, you saw an increase in your grant amount this year, which is exciting. And so we are still advocating for the full amount of what's called the non-resident athlete and entertainers tax, which is funding that it's an income tax like you and I pay, but it's paid for out-of-state performers such as Taylor Swift or Beyonce that came into the state and had concerts last summer, or some of the teams that are playing the Chiefs. And it always helps when we're in extra playoff season because that's extra revenue that we get for that fund. And so by statute, the Missouri Arts Council is supposed to receive 60% of that. That fund generated nearly 36 million last year. So the allocation amount of 60% would be close to 20 million. And that's what we're asking for from the legislature this year. So any questions on that before we roll on down? Okay. You want to scroll down then or go to your next slide, Caitlin?
This is the next one, but I can keep going if you want.
Oh, sorry. So like I said, we also support our cultural part. Thanks, Evie. I need you to get that Chiefs log in there. The A&E tax also supports 4 cultural partners. They are the State Library Networking Fund, the Missouri Humanities Council Trust Fund, the Missouri Public Broadcasting Corporation Special Fund, and the Missouri Historic Preservation Revolving Fund that's under the Department of Natural Resources. So they get 10% of that athlete and entertainers tax. So we continually support them as well. And then some of these items under arts education in our schools are things that we advocate over at the State Board of Education for, but they are discussed in various bills in the legislature, but this year we do not have a specific piece of legislation we're supporting. So we just continually support arts education in general in all Missouri schools. And then the Missouri Fine Arts Academy is a fabulous program for our gifted students in arts and entertainment, and also we also support the line item for the Missouri Scholars Academy. We are requesting $1 million to support those academies not this summer, because this is June 24, it would be June of 2025. Last year, we got $850,000 in that line item to support those programs. And so therefore, no students had to pay tuition to attend, which was great. We want to make it as accessible as possible for all students across the state. And then the last is we always support any funding for capital improvement projects. We saw a lot of these funds during the ARPA funding that was available, and some of those funds that have not been spent are going to be reallocated this session. So we'll know more about that as the budget process progresses. Like I said, the governor just gave his state of the state yesterday, so we're just starting to get into that discussion. And just so you know, the governor yesterday recommended the full $10 million budget amount, again, for the Missouri Arts Council funding. And they did recommend the $850,000 for the Missouri Fine Arts Academy funding. So we still have some work to do to get us up to where we'd like to be, but at least we, so far, have not sustained any cuts in the budget. So, any questions around that? Okay. So to get there, like I said, it's a sales pitch. So you're going to have to do a little homework on who your legislator is. You can look them up on the Senate website, and you could, oh, that's the Secretary of State. We want to make sure you're registered to vote, but you can find a lot of them also have Facebook pages or websites that you can find out more information about them and their family. The House and Senate websites will show what committees they serve on. And that is always, I think, very helpful. If they're on the House Budget Committee, bingo, they're a very important person that you need to be speaking to. Or if they're on the Senate Appropriations Committee, those are the 2 committees that all of our funding goes through, and they will be the first ones to have full hearings and discuss the budget. So, yeah, maybe look at what committees are on, and then before you speak to them, are they a rural legislator? Are they a former educator? Just find out what that hot button is, and that will make your conversation with them so much easier. So remember that you are the expert. They have tons of people that come through this building every day asking them to support various different issues. They don't have time to support everything. Staff informs them of a lot of information, so don't be afraid to talk to the staff as well. But the more you can give them an update on what's going on in your district and let them know how you're using possibly those increases that we received last year, it just really helps the environment, keeps them informed. And if you don't know an answer to a question about a specific piece of legislation, never make up an answer, because they're going to know immediately that you're pulling their leg. Then they are not going to want to have that conversation with you next time. So just don't make up an answer. Say you'll get back with them, and then immediately give me a call and say, what do I tell these folks? And I'll be happy to follow up with you. So next one, contact. So I've changed my mind. I've been here 30 some years. I used to say, write a letter, handwritten letters are great. Well, now everybody texts or emails. So the best is a face-to-face meeting. And that's why we're really hoping you can join us at the Capitol on February 7th, or schedule a meeting with them in your district. Maybe invite them to your museum if you have an exhibit going, or a night of performance if you have something going. Need them. It's so much easier, and they will be so much receptive to take a phone call if they already know who's calling. Don't wait till the last minute, the night before the budget vote, like, oh, hey, my name's so-and-so, and by the way, can you support, funding for the Missouri Arts Council tomorrow? And, they're going to get that along with 50,000 other calls. So if they see your name in a text or an email and they know you already, or if you are emailing for the first time, I always encourage people to say, I live in your district, or I'm a voter in your district. Something that shows that it's not just a form email that you're sending out. Okay. And Missouri Citizens for the Arts has a great Adopt a Legislator program. So you can go online and sign up to be that contact. So when we do send out an action alert, that we know that you're the key contact there, that you already have a relationship with that legislator. Say I'm sitting in a budget hearing and say Representative Lavender asked me a question. Well, I know Stages is in her district, so I can reach out to them and say, hey, can you follow up with Representative Lavender? Because I think you would be a great person. You already have that contact with her. And it would just be much more credible coming from someone that actually lives or works in her district. So, and then send thank you notes. These folks never get enough credit. A lot of people, like I said, are here asking them for things, but man, it makes a huge difference, and they will remember you if you send them a quick thank you note for all their hard work. Okay. And yes, your efforts make a huge, huge difference, just for all the reasons I just mentioned. You're the expert. They want to hear from you. They want to make sure they're paying attention to their constituency. So just jump in the advocacy game, get involved. We try to make the legislative process as easy, or the advocacy process as easy as possible, but would love to get you more engaged, and just let us know what we need to supply you to become great advocates for more funding.
Christy, I see you've got a question. Would you like to ask of Kyna? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Can we help her unmute?
Okay, there I am.
There you go.
Sorry about that. So do you have small thank you cards with the RAC logo on it, or just use our own?
Mac, we have in the past. Yeah, we can get you some. I think we still have some of those printed. Caitlin would be the person to ask on that. Who are you with, Chrissy, or what
Yeah,
area?
in St. Louis.
You're in St. Louis?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, there was a table last year that had tons of things. So if they're just there, that we can
Mhm.
pick them up and take them back with us.
Caitlin, she asked, are we gonna have postcards this year?
Yes, we will have postcards
Oh,
again.
there you go.
There's a little
Okay.
picture. I can show it a little bit more full screen once we're done with the slideshow too, but we will have follow-up postcards for everyone to take at Advocacy Day.
There you go. Thanks, Chrissy.
Evie, it looks like you have a question.
Yes, thanks. Two quick, one I should know, and that is, has Lieutenant Governor introduced his budget for the arts? I
Yes.
think that's been done, but I just wanted to check. Okay.
No,
And
good
does it-
question. So the budget process actually starts with, we are under the Missouri Arts Council, Humanities and Public Broadcasting are under the Lieutenant Governor's budget. And he presented his budget request to the House Appropriations Subcommittee 2 weeks ago. And he did not make a request for increased funding. We were hoping he would, but he did not request any increases for any of his staff or any of the items under his budget. And then that recommendation went to the governor's office. And then, like I said yesterday, the governor kicked off the kind of the full budget process with his state of the state remarks and budget requests recommendation.
Okay. Sorry, and just a quick follow-up to that then, and I should have watched this, but I didn't. Was it well received by the subcommittee that he presented it to?
Yes, there was some great discussion. Representative Peter Meredith, of course, asked, why aren't we recommending the full 60% for the arts? We're, working our way back up to full funding. Since 1993, when that bill was passed, we have never received the full amount from that tax, but we are halfway there. So we're better than where we were 3 years ago. So we keep fighting.
Thanks.
Diane, I see your hand raised as well.
Hi, everyone. Oops, I just disappeared.
We can still hear you. That's okay too.
Okay.
There you are.
For opera theater, they provide us with a lot of statistics, which I'm really grateful for, but I just, Regional Arts Commission has available statistics for the St. Louis region that could be really valuable if you're representing an organization that doesn't have its own statistics. I really recommend going on there because they did this impact study, the arts impact on the region, and it's comprehensive. Regional Arts Commission.
Yes. And Diane, that's a great point. I know Springfield's done one, Branson, Joplin, Kansas City, Columbia, and all those. I know you guys have been releasing those facts and figures. So I would highly encourage you to bring that information to the attention of your legislators, either at the Capitol on February 7th or before then, and let them know what an economic driver the arts and creative community are in their districts. So yes, thank you. And also Michael Donovan has shared with MCA the impact study for the entire state. And I think we'll have that information that's on some of that postcard that Caitlin was just showing you. So.
And looks like
I
Lauren
brought that up.
posted in the chat the Regional Arts Commission information, if that's helpful for you. And yeah, you're right. Kyna will have in the folder that we'll have for each legislator on those postcards are the statewide data too. It's great stuff and legislators love it. It's really, really helpful and very informative. Great
Absolutely.
question. Thank you, Diane. I think those are the questions for now. Caitlin, if you want to move on to the next section.
Yeah, so just some follow-up tips for after this training. Number one, as kind of mentioned, sign up to adopt a legislator. We will make sure to include that in our follow-up materials so that you can sign up for your legislator or maybe a legislator in your area that doesn't have anyone signed up. And by adopting a legislator, that means that you will commit to being in contact with them this session. So whenever we have an action alert sent out, or maybe something is happening in your district that you'd like to share, you're going to be that point of contact. After this training, you should also be in contact with your legislator to set up appointments, either on Advocacy Day on the 7th or sometime during Arts Advocacy Week, or if they're not available, then maybe inviting them to an event so that you can make a connection. We will also be sending out our Arts Advocacy Toolkit, which includes our agenda. So as Kyna went over that today, just review it a few more times so that you can be prepared with your sort of elevator speech and what exactly you are going to say to legislators on Advocacy Day. You can also post on social media and tag us in any of your Arts Advocacy Week efforts. We love to share those sort of things on our social media as well. So it's just great to promote advocacy in the state when you share. Please make sure you are also following Missouri Citizens for the Arts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and like and share and comment all of our posts as well. That's a lot of times we will post action alerts there or different ways to get involved too. And then again, just stay in touch with those adopted legislators after Advocacy Week, and we will have those follow-up postcards for you to make it easy to do that. So I am going to flip and show you our I'll stop sharing here so I can show you our Adopt a Legislator site and also our toolkit that we have. So here is our Adopt a Legislator program that you can sign up for. It's a Sign Up Genius form, so you can just go here, click a slot, and sign up for that representative. You'll put in your email and your name and be ready to stay in contact with them. Then we also have our toolkit here. And so this is our Advocacy Week toolkit. It has a lot of great information, like our schedule and some advocacy tips. And then also our advocacy agenda is in there as well with some more details to help you advocate. Here are our upcoming events for Advocacy Day. So on February 7th, that's when you can join us for Arts Advocacy Day at the Capitol. It will begin with registration at 10 a.m. in the governor's office building. So if you came with us last year and many years before, we were in the Truman office building, but this year we will be in the governor's office building, which is a new place. As we prepare for Advocacy Day, we will be sending out a map of that exact location to make sure that you get there and are comfortable with where we're meeting. And then after our briefing that we have to go over all of the details and updated information that Kyna may have, then we'll send you over to the Capitol for all of your meetings. Your region might have a lunch that they are having sponsored. You can set up meeting times at any time during the day. And then there will also be the Arts Council Awards that will happen at 2 p.m. in the Rotunda. We'll send out a registration link for that too, and I'll make sure to drop it in the chat once we're done with the presentation as well. And then that whole week is Arts Advocacy Week. So if you can't make it to the Capitol, you can meet virtually or in district with your legislator as well. Here are some other resources that we have just to give you more information, some contact information for us as well in case you have any questions come up. And then to talk more about membership, as Leslie had mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we do rely on our membership dues to stay operational. So here are a list of our MCA members that we have. We're so thankful for all of our members. Individuals and organizations can join, and this helps us to keep a steady presence in the Capitol and to educate all of you on different advocacy efforts that we have. So I'll also drop it in the chat, but you can go to our website, moforarts.org. There is a mail-in registration to join as a member form on there, but there's also a digital form that you can fill out as well to become a member with MCA. All right, now I'll go ahead and stop sharing and we can go over any additional questions that you might have.
Patrice, I see your hand raised.
Hi, Patty.
Okay, I got the unmute. Hi, Kyna, I miss you.
I miss you
So
too.
good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
So just a quick question. do you think in general that the legislators know that there is an A&E tax? Do they know what it is?
So yes,
Okay.
but they're so most of all of them that are on budget definitely know, and
Okay.
on Senate appropriations. If they're not intricately involved with like the day-to-day operations of all the budget nuances, they may not be. But since Missouri has term limits, as you know, every 2 years we're getting 45 to 50 new legislators in the House and Senate. And
Right.
so it's continually an ongoing education effort to try to let these folks know. And I think just that's why we need such a huge army of supporters
Right.
and advocates to continue, to educate these folks as they come in and let them know that this is a statute that was put in place, 30 years ago that we just need to follow.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I like to focus on when I meet with a legislator, because I think it's a really easy thing to ask for them to give us something that's already on the books and is money coming in from out of state. So if we can educate them that this is not any money out of their pocket or our pocket, it's money that's from out of state, already on the books. All we need to do is get what is already there waiting for us. That just always feels like an easy ask for me.
Correct. Yeah. And I think when you explain it to them like that this is a line item in revenues budget, we get a printout every month, how many people have paid that tax. It's pretty easy to track. So it does make our argument a lot better, or, easier to say we have a, source of income that we're helping generate for the state. And we're just asking
Anybody see that line
to
item?
contribute back.
Can I access that line item? I mean, can we all do
Yeah.
that? Huh.
Well,
That's interesting. Okay.
not the income, but I can send you the letter we get from Department of Revenue every month
That would be
that
interesting to
shows how much
see.
is brought in. I will
Okay.
tell you, it's broken down between the artists and the athletes. And the athlete portion is a lot higher. So we
Mhm.
don't tend to share that letter with all the legislators, but the budget chairs do get that and see that. So for example, it's
Okay.
easier to track the income for the athletes because
Right.
Department of Revenue gets a roster of who played in that game that day
Right.
and how much their
Right.
salary is. So they immediately deduct that income from them.
Okay.
It's a little harder when Taylor Swift comes in town because it may be her corporation that's paying the tax and you don't know how much she's actually banking,
Okay.
on that one performance. So
Okay.
that's why we work with the entertainment venues to collect that tax up front, like a 2%. So a lot of it goes on the booking fee and what they
Okay.
pay her. But then they can go home and get an income tax deduction in other states for paying that tax in Missouri.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Does anybody else have a question on how the athlete and entertainer tax works?
David, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Well, I have a question. I saw on an earlier, thank you. I saw on an earlier slide, it's about 60%, and you said that we are maybe up to 30%, but then you just said the athletes get more. How does
So,
that break down?
so the athlete and entertainer funding goes all into one. So that 36 million includes the entertainers and the athletes. Just in the past, like some of the entertainers, when they were wanting to build, like when the Chiefs were wanting to build the new practice facility in St. Joseph, they're like, well, we're paying into this athlete and entertainer tax. Why don't you give us that funding to pay for the new practice compound? So that's why we don't really like to put those numbers out because I don't want them to limit us to only getting the entertainment portion of that tax that's being paid. Does that make sense?
Do we,
So if
do
we
don't know
broke it
we don't know
down,
what percentage we get
yeah,
then?
it, out of that 36 million, the entertainer part was probably 8 million of that.
So how can we balance and make that more equitable? Is there anything we can do to advocate for that?
Well, I think bringing in more entertainment groups from, out of state, making sure they're paying into the tax. And Leslie and I met with the person at the Department of Revenue to make sure they're collecting the tax like they're supposed to be. And so just trying to make people aware that if they pay that tax in, it comes back to the arts.
But only a little bit. I mean, it sounds like it's more significant part is going to fund athletics than it is.
No. There's no
Um,
money going to fund athletics. We don't want to go down that path where they can make that argument. Right now, 60% of it is supposed to go to the arts. 10% of it goes to the 4 cultural partners, humanities, libraries, public broadcasting, and historic preservation. The problem is it's still subject to appropriation, so they can take that funding and put it in other budgets throughout. So some of it may go to healthcare. Some of it may go to transportation. It's just, it's considered general revenue because it's an income tax like you and I pay. So I know that's like clear as mud. Did I answer your question though? So the entertainers just pay into it. They do, I mean, not the entertainers, the athletes just pay into it. They do not get any money back out of it. But that's why we want to keep it that way.
Diane, I see your hand raised with a question.
Yes, yes. Kind of that 10% that you just mentioned,
Hmm.
is that part of the 60%? That's part of it.
No,
It's not
so
it or does it all
it's in
supposedly add
addition
up to 70%?
so it's 60% for the arts, and it's 10% for the humanities, 10% for historic preservation. So those 4 cultural partners make up the other 40% plus our 60%
Okay,
to do the
so
full 100% of the athlete and entertainer tax.
okay.
I feel like I'm
So
losing.
do you know what percent they're actually getting now? We're getting around 30%.
We're getting around 30%. They're getting around, so humanities received 2.1 million last year and they were supposed to get 3.6. So they're not getting their full 10% either, but they're a lot closer than we are. They're getting more than half.
Okay.
What
Thank you.
What
So
other
I think when you're
questions?
discussing it with your legislators, try not to get way deep in the weeds and just say, thank you so much for appropriating $10 million to the arts last year. And
Yeah.
any increases you could give us this year would be greatly appreciated. And yes, we all work hard to make sure these non-resident professional entertainers are paying into the tax. And we'd love to see that come back so I could use it to do X. And then that's where you insert what you do.
Mhm.
So don't think on the other stuff too heavy. But I'm certainly happy to have that deeper conversation with anybody that'd like to after the call if there's still questions.
And when I get questions like that, I'm not sure, I always email or call Kyna. Help me
Yeah.
answer this appropriately, Kyna. Gary, I see your hand up. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Did I miss what happens to the surplus that is not allocated?
So it is subject to appropriation, and we've tried to get Attorney General's opinion, like, can't you make them give us the full amount? But until it's voted on statewide, like our parks and soils tax or our conservation tax, it's still up to each year the legislature appropriating that. So in years where we've been short funding, that money's been siphoned off to fill holes in the healthcare, Department of Health, or you name it. And there's really no way to see where it goes, because like I was telling David, it's all general revenue funding. So they can fill education's pothole, or, wherever they're short funding.
Mhm. Lots of great questions. Anything else before we wrap up
Yeah.
for today? Great. Thank you so much, Kyna. Caitlin, is there anything else that we need to talk before we sign off and get ready to see everybody on the 7th?
I don't believe so. I think Evie just raised her hand again, though.
Oh.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. And I think most folks know this, but just for folks who haven't been there for a while, or it's not what they do. The other thing is that I was thinking, and kind of, I'm sure you agree, that having good relationships with legislative aides as well is really important. And both of them are incredibly sharp, been around a lot longer because there's term limits for the legislators, and can be incredibly helpful. So I just never feel like I've been dissed, or, well, I'm dissed a lot by lots of people, but I never feel like I'm dissed by a legislator if I'm really principally working with a legislative aide. Just as an important relationship to develop. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
They keep this place running.
Yep. So we had dropped a couple links in the chat that you can check out. We'll also follow up with an email to everyone that registered for this and all of our members with a recording of this, the slides provided, and all of those links that we mentioned as well. Yeah. We hope to see you all at the Capitol on February 7th. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.